I'm Edie Lush. I'm here at the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos, and it has started to snow again. So we're tempted to make a joke about snowflakes, aren't we?
Yeah, but we won't.
So I've got Lutfey Siddiqi. He's a return guest. Thank you very much for coming by the studio. Professor at the London School of Economics. Now tell me, I'm really interested in this idea of whether growth and GDP is the right measure of growth.
Right.
And I know that you have some thoughts on that.
Yes, so I think poor GDP as a metric is much maligned for several reasons. Firstly, because it's an aggregation of reported transactions. So if there's a receipt, it gets added to the measure of GDP. If you're a house husband, you're doing useful work, that's not really valued. Secondly, it doesn't really make a distinction between what's good income and bad income. Are you generating externalities in the environment or not? And then lastly, it doesn't make a value distinction between whether you're earning income by digging a hole or by filling it up. Both are considered to be additive for GDP. I don't know if you noticed, the World Economic Forum today released an Inclusive Development Index, IDI, which tries to tackle this issue by really broadening it out. So what they do is they take GDP as the base measure. They add a human development indicator, set of indicators, for example, life expectancy to it. And then they add dollops of inclusion measures. Inclusive in the sense of how inclusive is it with respect to the society of today, and how inclusive is it with respect to the society of tomorrow.
So you're making a kind of net present value of future externalities,
yes,
or how does that work?
That's right. So it looks at intergenerational impact as well. And in many ways, it's a better measure. It's a broader measure. The other problem with GDP is not so much the metric, but the abuse or overuse of it by policymakers. It should really not be used as a proxy for economic progress. It should be used as one of many indicators. One illustration is if you look at how the US compares with, say, Bangladesh when it comes to the Inclusive Development Index. So the US is 9th in the world when it comes to GDP per capita, 23rd in the world when it comes to the Inclusive Index. Bangladesh, on the other hand, is 64th in the world when it comes to per capita GDP, but 32nd in the world when it comes to IDI, way better than India, Pakistan, Brazil, Philippines, Indonesia, many of the other countries that you would think would have ranked higher. So what it means is your economic growth comes at the expense of the climate, of each other, of future generations, whereas ours is probably slightly better. Just saying.
Which isn't to say that, of course, all problems have been solved in Bangladesh. We know about the climate migration. We know the impact that has on women, on gender, on jobs, on farms. So it's not to say that the problems are solved, but it's a different lens to look at it.
Yes, at least you have a broader perspective on things. And the key message here is whether it's GDP measure or any other measure, is that we shouldn't try to distill everything into one measure. You really need a wider dashboard. It's a complex challenge, and I think we need to respect the complexity of it, which is why there are 17 SDGs. If you try to narrow it down to only one measure, you would by definition leave a lot out.
So in fact, the Oxfam's inequality measure is another reductionist way to look at the world?
Yes, probably. I mean, it's probably designed to put focus on one aspect of the policy challenge, but I think the more inclusive of multiple metrics, multiple lenses, the more useful it is for policy interventions.
Lutfey, thank you so much for stopping by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and I'm Edie Lush.